Hello, gorgeous. Obviously, you're not seeing my face, which might be a little weird for people, but I had somebody request kind of a basic brush knowledge thing because brushes can be daunting. There's so many different ones and different types. So I'm going to go over them real quick, and I hope this is informative. So the first thing that you have to know about brushes is that there are two types. There's synthetic and there's natural hair. Natural hair brushes are like this. You can kind of feel the difference. They're very, very soft. If they're natural hair, they're made out of either squirrel, pony, or goat hair, or a combination of the three. So yeah, they feel different than, like, this is a synthetic brush. And it feels a little bit coarser. It's not usually as well packed. But, synthetic brushes are also very good, and they've made huge strides. So depending on your thoughts on that, you can do whichever you want. So I have these out. These are kind of your basic face brushes. This obviously is a rounded powder brush. This is going to be what you're going to use to set your makeup with, set your powder with. It's just a big fluffy brush. You don't want to use a brush that's not fluffy to set your powder because it will cake. Or you can get those spots where it's like you have a big dollop of powder somewhere. So this is good for all over. And this is a Morphe M107 brush. So that's that. The other brush that I wanted to show you, this is a Prescriptives brush, which they don't make anymore, but I love this brush. I've had it for a long time. If you take good care of your brushes, they can last you for years and years and years. This is what's called an airbrush brush. As you can see, if you look at it, it's pretty densely packed in the black section, and then it's almost like diffused, and that's what they call the airbrush. This is good for bronzer. This is good for contouring if you want to do a light contour, because you're not going to get a whole lot of product on at a time, so you can kind of build it. So that's what that kind of brush is. Then you have what this is called. You can use this for foundation. This is an IT Cosmetics brush. It's very tightly packed. This is natural hair. And as you can see, as you can look at it, it's very, very tightly packed. So if you prefer to use a brush to a sponge, this is a good brush to use for foundation. I personally use this as a veiling brush if I put too much product on my face. Like if I have too much blush or too much bronzer, I use this kind of to veil and get it all evened out. And if this is an IT Cosmetics brush, like I said, you can buy those at Ulta. All right, the next brush I'm going to show you, this is a Morphe E56 brush. This is kind of a wide, but not as, it's not round. It is a natural hair. This is a sable brush. This is kind of a really good brush for like brushing off bake, or if you just want like a really soft powder, but you want more powder on than like if you're using a powder foundation, this is a really good brush for that, because it is very densely packed. You can't even hardly see the bristles, I don't think. But it's great. I love it. I use it for getting rid of my under eye baking, because since it is so finely packed, it does get all that extra loose powder out and leave you not looking cakey or having any of the powder settle in your fine lines. This brush is a Morphe R6, and this is a flat-topped buffing brush. This brush, the only thing I use this brush for is to buff out my face. So if you contour especially, it's very important to have a good buffing brush. I like the fact that this is flat, so all you're doing is you're doing that buffing motion, this, almost like a car. You're buffing your car, you're buffing your face, all over your face, and it's going to kind of give you that blended finish where you don't have any hard lines on your face. You can't see the difference between where your bronzer starts and your blush starts. This is kind of my finishing brush. Okay, so then you have brushes like these. And these are what you call your highlighting, or I call, you call, I guess anybody can call it that, your highlighting and your contour and your blush brushes. This I like to use as for a bronzer. This is just it's one of those like this, where it's an airbrush brush, where it's more densely packed at the bottom, and then it's more soft at this, so you don't get as much saturation when you twirl it in your bronzer. This is actually a Bare Minerals smoothing face brush. Smoothing face just means like what I said. It helps smooth out your powder or your products that you have on your face. I think you can use this with liquids, but I don't. I like it as a bronzer brush because, like I said, it gives you a little bit more control because it's a little smaller. If you wanted to contour like around the outside of your face or something like that, this is a great brush for that. And then other brush, I know this is weird. This is an e.l.f. brush. It was $1, which is awesome. Blending brush. I use this for contour because it is perfect. Like if you look at the shape of it, it literally is perfect for going right under your cheekbone and just adding that little extra bit of bronze, that extra bit of color to kind of contour your cheeks out. And then you can go on your chin too and just put a little bit. It is very densely packed. It feels like natural hair, but I'm thinking because it was e.l.f. and it was $1, it's not. But it is very densely packed. You do want to be careful with these type of brushes. Like I said, with the denser packed brushes, it does give you very good color payoff. So a little bit goes a long way. And you can just use that this action just to get that contour really good. It's also really good on your hairline if you want to do bronzer, light bronzer around your face. All right. This is my blush brush. Some people like to use powder brushes. Like you could use this brush or like this brush for powder. I prefer, because I tend to be a little heavy-handed, I prefer this brush. This is what is this? This is a Crown brush, and this is their blush brush. It is one of those, like, again, the airbrush brushes, so it's densely packed at the bottom, and then there's not as much bristles that come to the top. So you get that subtle look. If you want to add more to it later, you can, but you don't overdo it right at first. That's why I like this. So, and then these two are just two different types of highlighting brushes. As you can see, this one is more of a triangle shape, and it is more densely packed. It is synthetic. This is if you want to really pack that highlight on. This is what I use on my cheekbones, or if you want to contour like on your forehead or your chin. You know, this is really good if you really want that higher impact shine, because it is more dense. Anytime it's denser, it's going to give you better color payoff. And I like it because it looks like a unicorn. Isn't that fun? It was a Wet n Wild brush, and I think it was $1 too, so yay. And then this brush, this is what is this? A Morphe Y14 brush. This is a smaller tapered highlighting brush. As you can see, it is natural hair. This is a very good highlight brush for if you're going to highlight like your brow bone or tip of your nose, or you just want to do a little bit more subtle highlighting. Or if you have a highlighter that you know is like super pigmented and you want to just kind of give you that little tiny bit of glow, this is a really good tool for that, because since it is tapered, it gives you a lot more control. And as you can see, my fingers are all glittery from it. I need to wash my brushes. And yeah, so that's that one. And then as far as eyeshadow brushes, all the rest of my brushes I'm going to show you are eyeshadow brushes. You have basically a couple different types. You have big round brushes. These are like all over shadow brushes. If you're putting something all over your eye or blending, this is a soft round topped. It's what's called it's a basic shadow brush. You can get those pretty much anywhere. That's a carroty brush. I actually, for all over, like the Morphe R32 brush, which it's a little, it's got that airbrush thing again, but it's a little blunter on top, and I feel like I can control where the color goes a little bit more. I also feel like it's more effective on packing on color. But those are two like kind of basic eyeshadow brushes that are good for all over color. And then you have Blending brushes. There are excuse me, yeah, blending brushes. There are so many different tapered blending brushes. I mean, and as you can see, like I said, I really need to wash my brushes. But these are kind of like whatever suits your fancy. They are going to also be, I mean, some are different. If you can look at them, some are going to be different shapes than others, and some are better for other things. But these are all brushes that you would use in your, along your brow bone to kind of put that transition color down and really get a good transition. And these are also blending brushes, obviously. So you've got your, you know, this is one of them. This is a Morphe. I've talked about this one several times, the Morphe G24. It is very soft and fluffy and kind of comes to a point. This is a good one to put your first transition down, just because it is going to give you a pretty good coverage without a lot of work and effort. And then once you get that first coverage down, then you can use any of these kind of taper brushes like this one. The Morphe G18 is more of a blunt, smaller precision one. So that's going to give you a more compact look, and it's going to be more precise than the other fluffy ones. These come in synthetic, like this one. They come in natural hair, like this one. This one obviously is if you want to do any more like a smoky eye. But yeah, they come all different types. You should always have a blending brush just because you want to blend. Blending is good. You don't want to see lines unless you're trying to do something crazy in editorial. The other type of brush that you have is your what's called paddle brush. The paddle brushes I've talked about before are brushes that are going to lay color down, especially shimmers and metallics, are really going to lay the color down a lot stronger than any kind of the blending brushes because they are packed more tightly. And as you can tell, they're a paddle. So it's like literally a flat brush. So you can put your product on it and then apply it flat to your eye and get the most impact and bang for your buck. These also come in synthetic and natural hair. The natural hair brushes are not going to be as, I'm going to say dynamic as the synthetic ones. My favorite one, the MAC 242, which I think is a brush everyone should have. It is flat, it's firmly packed, and it's synthetic. So it is great for putting down shimmer, metallics, anything like that. It just really does pack a good punch. Like I said, if you just don't want to put a whole lot on, you would use a paddle brush that's more like this, and it's fluffy, and it's real hair. So there's those. And then really the only other kind of brushes that you have are like concealer. These are concealer brushes. They are synthetic. They're kind of like the paddle brushes, but they're made a little bit differently. You can feel them when you can tell when you feel them. This is good for under eye concealing. I use a beauty blender, but this is a good solid brush for concealer. Or if you're doing any kind of subtle highlighting or contouring with cream, you want to use brushes that are synthetic like that. And then the other kind is, you have, you know this bad boy. This is good if you want to put, using for your brows because it's pointed. It gives you a very precise line. I actually like to use these under my eyes, the smudge liner, and to make it look more dramatic or smoky. But I talked about this one too, the Carity brush. It's kind of like a basic full eyeshadow brush like that, only it's a little tiny, so it's perfect for right under your eyes. So yeah, brands that have really good brushes, Morphe, Sigma, It Cosmetics, those are brushes that are going to run you a little bit more expensive, but are going to, I mean, you get what you pay for. They last a really long time. e.l.f. has really good brushes. Wet n Wild has really good brushes. So definitely, and then in order to clean your brushes, all you have to do is use a paraben-free soap or shampoo. So like if you use like any kind of gel, like you can literally use gel hand soap. I know they make brush cleansers, but I've had some of these brushes for almost 20 years and they're still fine, so you can use hand soap. That was it. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to enter my giveaway. It ends tomorrow. And have a wonderful day.